No matter where you are in your walk with Christ, JOMILLA DENAE offers a safe space for reflection and dialogue. This is JOMILLA DENAE. Welcome to JOMILLA DENAE. I'm your humble host, JOMILLA DENAE, and I have a special guest with me, Devyn. Devyn, say hello to the people.
Hey, y'all.
I met this beautiful lady actually doing another podcast. And then I found out that she has her own podcast. Why don't you tell the people about Inner Peace?
Indeed. So I started the Inner Peace podcast with women in mind. I've always had somewhat of a leadership pronated personality. And a lot of people ask me for advice. And so I was like, well, instead of having 57 different conversations, let me just record an episode and see if that suffices and just pass out this link. And that's so, that's how I got started.
Okay. So has it been helping?
Yeah, it's been helping for sure.
Not as many calls about advice now. They just go to
still get the calls.
Go to episode 3.
Still right. Still get the calls. And it's okay because they're my friends, so it's all good.
Okay. Well, that's good. So you're that type of person, like the friend that people go to for advice.
Yeah.
So that must mean you're wise.
You could say that.
Let's been through some things. I guess we'll get into that later. But first, I have to do my first segment. It's called This You. Now, y'all know I always do research on my guest. And with this lady, it was a little bit hard because she don't really have social media.
Incognito.
She's incognito, baby. But I was able to find a little bit something.
Let's see
maybe. Let's see. Now, allowing God to be the head of our lives will equip us to make the right decisions. We still have to choose what's right. We still have to put in the work. Jesus is not a genie. He makes a way, but we still have to commit to the task and follow through. Is this you?
Yep.
She knew that immediately.
Definitely. Yes. That's off my Instagram.
Yep. And I think it's very true that I always say, like, I do my best and let God do the rest. But the scripture is true that faith without works is dead. Do you think that just because you believe something's going to happen, it's going to happen?
No, I think that a lot of people are taught that it's just to put it in God's hands and totally alleviate personal responsibility and accountability. And he gonna do it.
Okay.
He paid it all kind of thing.
That sound real good.
It sound good. It'll preach.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but you're gonna be a little disappointed.
Yeah.
When it comes to some things.
Yeah. Because you gotta do that work.
Facts.
All right. What about this one? Don't forget to talk to God today. He would love to hear from you.
I don't think that's me.
No, it's not you. It's Benji Newman.
Okay.
He actually tweeted that this morning. And I do think it's true. Talk to God. He would love to hear from you. All right. What about this one? Who heals the healer? And then this person responded, God.
I didn't say who heals the healer.
Did you say the God?
Possibly.
Like,
but
as a response to someone?
Maybe in the comments, if you caught me going back and forth, because I'd be in them comments.
No, it wasn't you, actually.
Okay, I was about to say.
It was Shalula God.
Okay.
I don't know who that is, but he has a verified little thing on his name.
Check.
So
he spent the 25.
But I do think it's true. All right. One more. I'm too close to God to play victim.
No, I wouldn't say nothing like that.
You didn't say that, actually. She's always saying
I wouldn't say that.
Actually, it's my next guest, and I want to ask him what he meant by that.
Okay.
Sometimes I am the victim.
You will never hear me talk about how close I am to God, how I hear from God. It's a couple of things you won't never hear me say.
Okay, well, we're going to get into that. But right now, we're going to take a break.
Okay.
Okay, so I want to get into what you just said about you'll never see me tweeting about
how close I am.
How close you are to God and hearing from God. Yeah. Why do you say that?
Personally, I can't speak for nobody but me.
Right.
But I think it's a little bit arrogant to say, like, if you're not always walking in integrity and you say you hear from God, I feel like it's a false statement. Whew. And you got to be careful with saying how you heard from God, because now you lying.
Because it could have been yourself.
God himself.
Convincing you.
Right.
Man, that's so funny that you say that, because I was literally just having a conversation with my sister about a man who told me God told him we were supposed to be together.
No.
And back in my church going days when I was like a child, I would hear stories about that, oh, he told me he was going to be my husband now, and I just would think that is so amazing. Like, God told you that? That is crazy.
I didn't get the email though.
That's the thing I was telling my sister. I said, but why wouldn't God tell me? I talk to God every day, multiple times a day. I'm really close to him. Why would he tell this man that I'm his wife, but he wouldn't tell me?
You come to find that God tells people things that they want to be told. They want to hear.
That's the truth.
So, yeah.
I love that you said that because I was so confused. Like, why would she say that?
And I mean, most people aren't, when they're saying it, they're not aware of the contradiction that they're making. And so, like I said, have grace. And I understand it, but at the same time, it's just something I would never say.
So do you think that God has ever spoken to you?
Through situations, through experiences, through discernment.
Through people?
Through outcomes, not directly.
It just is your own mind, or you think that?
When I say, this is how I reaffirm that it was God. God is never going to tell you anything that's not in his word.
Okay.
And so that's how I know. That's confirmation. I'll be in Bible study or whatever. I'll have read something and then something that happened. And somebody will say a verse that I was just reading. And I'm like, okay.
I hear you, God. I hear you.
I hear you.
Because God really does work in mysterious ways. Because I feel like that's what he can do. That's really all he can do is work through other people, work through ways and signs. I'm a big sign person. Like I'm always looking for signs. And that's why when he told me that, it just didn't align with my spirit because I'm like, I don't see any signs.
It didn't resonate.
I'm looking at the Bible and I'm like, my husband will love me like the church. And I'm looking at how he loved the church. And I'm like, it's not what you did.
Girl, you know how many men have told me that?
Really?
And said,
well, shoot,
my ex-fiance
let's talk
told
about
me
it. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of these men kind of weaponize God to get what they want. When it comes to these women who they know love God, they're in the church, and they're like, oh, let me use this to
finesse. Okay, no, I'm not going to say.
Not to say about your ex.
No, not like that.
Not to call him out or anything, but I'm just saying there are men like that.
I don't see as much malice in it. I'm going to say that it's pride to, make that assumption. But like I was saying earlier, to say that God told you this about you having a wife and then the rest of your life ain't in order, I have trouble with that. So it's just kind of like just say you really feel strongly about me. Why you gotta put God in it?
Why you gotta put why you gotta lie?
Why you gotta lie? Like, I can't verify that. I don't want to hurt your feelings, but yeah, I think it's just pride. I mean, especially not to say it like that, but like men speak with such what is that? Conviction,
matter of factly.
They're so assertive, and so it's like if they're not that way when they come towards you, with a statement like that, then I could see, how you probably wouldn't take them seriously.
Like laugh in his face,
right? Oftentimes they don't have the same level of emotional intelligence that we have to think things through. And it's just like, okay, they'll get a sensation like, how you feel when you're in the presence of somebody maybe you're crushing on. For them, that's God telling.
It's just such a powerful feeling. Yeah. It must be God.
Yeah. Some men don't have that same level of emotional intelligence. I'll say it like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But let's go back to, you said you've heard this before. And how did you handle that?
We were kicking it for like 6 months. He asked my grandma for my hand in marriage and things. And my grandma was like, well, ask her. Like, that's up to her.
Yeah.
But I mean, he treated me very well. But we weren't ready. I wasn't ready. I was way too young at the time. It just wasn't it. And I ended up breaking his heart, which I didn't intend to do. But I would have broke his heart eventually in the marriage.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't a wife yet. Like in terms of like my mentality and how I think and how I know myself now and how I know God now. Like my relationship and my faith with God now, it was non-existent back then. Like I just went to church back then.
So tell us about your Christian origin story. I ask all my guests this.
So I'm going to start my testimony from what brought me to Tennessee because my testimony is mad.
Okay.
So my best friend was shot to death at 19, right after I graduated from high school. And a week before he was shot, he came to visit me at my grandmother's house. We had kind of fallen out a little bit. Because he was hanging out with a group of people that I really didn't approve of. And eventually, caused him to lose his life. But a week before the occurrence, he popped up randomly and just showed up at the front door. My grandmother told me he was there. And so it was weird because of the procession of events that happened after that. Like he was just pouring out his heart. He was like, I love you. I'm sorry. I miss you. I want to spend time together. It was 7 days before.
Wow.
And at 19 years old, we both were 19 at the time. He came to clear the air. Like, it took me out for a minute, long story short. Like, that story is mad long. But I'm going to say that his grandmother was a really strong woman of faith. And that day he popped up at my house. We had kicked it for the whole rest of the day. He picked me up. We went back over to his mom's house. His mom had cerebral palsy. And so somebody always had to be there to monitor her. So we were sitting out in the car. And his grandmother called. She lived across the alley. His grandmother called, and I remember she was like hysterical in the phone. She had just had a dream that something had happened to him. And I could hear it in the phone. And so he drove over there. She wanted to pray over him.
Yes.
So I went up to the top floor to his sister's bedroom and just was up there, while they were downstairs praying. And so, we got back in the car. He dropped me off. He was like, I want you to come get me on Saturday. I was working at Best Buy at the time. And he was like, I want you to get me the movie Bruce Almighty.
Oh, wow. I love that movie.
Right? And I had a discount. So I was like, okay, I'm going to pick you up. We're going to go pick it up and then it's going to be cool. Saturday came. I had choir rehearsal that day and I kept calling him because I was going to take him with me. Nobody answered the phone. Calling all day. And his sister eventually picked up and was like, PJ not here. So I was like, okay, well, kept calling. Choir rehearsal was over. Never picked up. I went to kick it with my other friends, India. It was like till about maybe 10 o'clock that night. And I just was like, well, maybe he went out somewhere else. That was Saturday. Monday morning, I woke up. I was enrolled at UWM at the time. And I remember the house phone rang. And it was my mom. And she told my grandmother to turn the TV to channel 4. And so grandmother turned the channel to channel 4. And his house was on the news. And so the volume was all the way down. She turned it up and all I heard was 19-year-old man shot. And I didn't see his face on the TV, but I just kind of like made that calculation in my mind.
Recognize the house.
19-year-old man. I'm like
19, yeah.
19. So I was like, I'm not a big emotional, person in public or even in front of anybody. Yeah. So I just kind of got my stuff. My grandmother just kind of just gave me this deer in headlights look because she knew I was going to just crash at some point. But I grabbed my bag, left out the house, got on the bus, headed to school. And that was a mistake getting on that bus because everybody was just in pieces crying over the whole neighborhood. So I was like, that's when I started losing it. But long story, a lot shorter, that really was a pivotal point in my life where I was questioning everything. Why did that happen? If he, if God had sense enough to send him to my crib, to talk to me, why not intervene? It was a lot of things I was feeling at that time. But long story short, I didn't want to be in Milwaukee anymore. And I had a cousin that would come up to Milwaukee and visit his mom often. He was always like, when are you coming down to Tennessee? And he had came up not too, much longer after the funeral. And so I was like, well, how about now? And just took off.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so being in Tennessee by myself, with my cousin, of course, but just away from everything that I had known, it really made me get into church a lot during that time. So I found like a local church with this guy I was working with at the time, Pastor Keith Ireland, I think his name was. He would pick me up and take me to work with him sometimes because I didn't have a car. But so I would go to his church every Sunday. So that's where my faith started. But my relationship is a very long story, like I said, as far as like developing.
Well, I am sorry to hear about your friend. And it tells me a lot about community. Like community is a word that popped in my head when you said you moved here to Nashville. You needed that community because you left one community that I guess was not ideal or not what you wanted. And then you came to another one and it's like church can serve as a community. And that is one of the better things about church because it is supposed to be a family. It is supposed to be somebody you can call on. I need a ride here. I need a ride. You know what I'm saying? That's what the basics of church is a community. So. And
it was a fresh start too for me. Running from my problems was a big part of it. Running from pain. Because I wasn't really ready to deal with it. I mean, at 19, who would be ready to deal with something like that?
That's too much. That's a lot.
Right. Right. And it was.
Well, I'm glad that you found community. And then tell me about the church. Was this a good experience? Are you still attending this church?
No.
It wasn't a good experience?
I mean.
Or in the moment, in the time?
Initially.
Okay.
But it's kind of like everything, initially it's all good. And then it kind of plays out a little bit more and you're like, oh. But it wasn't like a terrible experience or anything like that. No, it just was like, I've always been one of those people, like, because of my grandmother. Before she passed, like all my life, because I was raised by her, she taught me how to read the Bible and know the Bible for myself. And so I would notice the difference between what the pastors were saying and what they were preaching versus what was in the word oftentimes.
What was they preaching?
I mean, it wasn't necessarily nothing bad, but like we was having that, you know, it was just like, okay, so
like
you
a
talk
business
about
standpoint, like you said.
You dancing around certain things and then you emphasize certain other things that, you know, nobody but maybe 5 people in here can feel convicted about.
Man.
So it just was like one of those things. And so I'm like, I remember one time the pastor, not the church I started at, but the church I eventually went to with my best friend when I was at MTSU, scheduled a meeting with him. And we were just going back and forth. He was like, you were so wise. Who taught you this? I was like, thank you. But I was like, well, how come on Sunday?
Now you didn't answer his question. My grandmama raised me.
I was one of them. Yeah. And so he was like, I mean.
Back to the subject. Hands.
Section 5. Like, I was one of them.
Yeah.
So I've always been one of those inquisitive people. Always ask questions. Because I'm like, I genuinely had like this hole in me that I could not feel because I had this huge thirst for information. First and foremost, I've talked about it in my podcast. I used to date women. So my initial reason for looking in the Bible, I was trying to justify dating women.
Oh.
I was trying to find
and
in the Bible
ain't that
to
what
where
we
you
do,
could.
Girl? That justification. Like, I swear, it don't say nothing in this Bible.
I was in there. I was like, no, because I know.
Drinking my...
Because everybody else can do what they want to do, so I can do what I want to do.
That is so funny.
But that's what started, you know, my journey and my deep dive into it. But once I got in there, I was like looking at different things. And I went on like a 3-year celibacy, no alcohol thing, like no sex, no alcohol.
Oh, wow.
It was like 3 years.
3 years.
Right.
Now, I did 1 year celibacy.
3 years.
But I was drinking. Probably shouldn't be. Because I feel like when you drink, it just makes you want to do bad things anyway.
I mean, it's
But 3 years.
But that said, gin make you sin. So I mean,
it do. But 3 years? How was that?
I didn't set out to do 3 years. But it ended up being 3 years.
So you set out to do maybe like a year?
I set out to my
you
prayer.
You got disgusted with people?
My initial prayer, and it was right when I started my locks too, before I cut them. I said, Lord, I want to know the truth. Because I was like, I just want to reconcile how I feel. And I should say it better. It wasn't me trying to justify dating women, because it was like, I didn't even feel right about it.
Clearly.
It was like, I felt torn. I just wanted to like make that scale balance.
Some peace.
I wanted some peace.
You wanted some inner peace.
Right. I wanted the inner peace, right? What I got now, I didn't have that.
Okay.
So I wanted that. And I was like, okay, well, let me just close all the windows, close all the doors. And, you know, because it's in here.
Yeah.
And up here.
Oh my gosh.
So
that's where I'm at right now in my life.
Really?
I don't think I've made the commitment all the way. I'm not in totality, but I am on my way. Like, I'm trying to wean things out of my life that I know are not serving me anymore. But it's so hard.
Attachments.
But you know what's crazy? I have a friend that always like drills into me that the easy thing is not the righteous usually. So it's easy to have sex. It's easy to drink. It's easy to do all the things that you know that you're not really supposed to be doing. They're not really bringing you any fruits. It's hard to be righteous sometimes. Do you agree with that?
I'm going to say this. I don't think that you're looking deep enough, because I don't think that you're attached to the things that you're talking about. I think that there is maybe a numbing mechanism that pushes you to latch on to certain things because it soothes. You know what I mean? But it's not this per se.
Yeah.
Because if it was this per se, you'd be an addict. You know? But it's not this. It's just...
Maybe I'm playing.
Certain points of time.
When it comes to certain things, I do feel like maybe I am addicted. But like you just said, maybe I'm not thinking deep enough, because...
Do you look at how you feel before you do whatever you do? That would be what I focus on.
No, I'm trying to run from that.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So I don't think it's what you latched on to.
Man.
Right.
Not you just read me on my show, girl.
No, girl, I read me. Get
out of here. Like.
I read me, and you can relate, because I done been through it too.
Okay.
So, no, it's...
Well, give me some tips, because I feel like the same point where you're saying, like, you started, that's where I'm at in 2024. after getting sick of my own stuff, I'm kind of sick of like
patterns.
The treatment, the patterns. It's like, girl, you're doing it to yourself. And I realized that, and then I'll do good, and then I'll have those moments where I'm back into something triggers me, you know, and I'm back into like, ooh, but then I'll know I'm not, you know, I'll bring it back a little bit, but it's like, I don't ever want to even feel like that. Like, how do you deal with the triggers?
How do I do? So what I would say to do, if I could like shorten the curve, is first and foremost, get a therapist before you do anything. You need to find a therapist that you have a really good rapport with. That you vibe with and that you can talk to. And then, like I said, closing all the windows, closing all the doors, slowly, like one by one.
Okay, I was about to say cold turkey. I'm like,
like
girl,
one by one. And get you a journal, one by one, starting with the one that's kind of the least, you know, largest attachment that you have, because you're gonna have a reaction to anything that you let go.
That's true.
Journal it, talk to your therapist about it, deep dive it.
Whew. Okay.
Yeah. And then what I do now is I like will have certain verses that apply to this. And I will just like meditate on those. Because it says meditate on the word.
I was going to ask you if you meditate. It's like you just read my mind.
Meditate on the word.
Do you meditate?
No.
Oh, you don't meditate? Okay.
We talk about that later. But no.
I be feeling like it helps me. Because like I told you before, I am a very stressful person. And I don't know where the stress comes from, but I do know that there is a certain person in my life who's very
agitating.
Not agitating, but they also stress out a lot, and that kind of like pours out onto me. And sometimes I can't take it, and that I'll get physically sick, or I'll get like a headache, or like the stress is just too much. So meditation has been helping me in that way. But it's curious. I'm curious to why you say you don't meditate. You say you meditate on the word.
I do, because that's what the word. I only do things when it comes to like practices that's okay in the word. So there's this thing called divination in the word, and anything that includes like, what is it? The stones and the bowls,
like
and,
you know,
the all crystals,
the crystals, chakras,
all that's a form of divination. Horoscopes, it all fits into that. Yoga, I'm guessing that's what you're saying. You're meditating with is yoga, or is it just like meditate, sitting there and
sitting there quiet and like kind of letting my thoughts just go to the air and.
Okay, well, you can sit in quiet. But I wouldn't. I would just
a little peaceful music in the background.
Okay, that's different. Meditating specifically is associated with yoga and different gods. But if you're just, you know, laying there quietly, reflecting on your own thoughts and just
like close the room, get all the kids out, like I need.
That's fine.
Okay,
that's fine.
Because I feel like that helps me.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because you know why? And this is something that I practice with a former therapist. I don't have a therapist right now, but I did have a therapist for 3 years. But I told him, like, I feel like we've gotten all that. I feel like I've gotten all I can get from him, and I need to move on and find. And that's something that I want to encourage you all to do. If you do have a therapist, do not get too comfortable. When you start getting too comfortable, it's time for a new one because they really can't put into you what you need. So going back to what I was saying. So he taught me a lot about mindfulness and meditation, and I didn't understand why I'm sitting here, you know, like going through my, you know, trying to let my thoughts lift up and being quiet. But when I'm in the moment and somebody's getting on my nerves or I feel those stress levels come, I think about that and I go back to that. So I'm like, oh, okay, this is why you do it. This is why you meditate. And I think that it's something that a lot of people miss in society. Like they'll see people do stuff on TikTok. They'll see people do stuff on Twitter, but they're not understanding why.
Why or where
they're just doing it.
Right.
And it's just like, you really have to be that type of person like Devyn that asks questions. You have to be inquisitive. You do your research. Like, and that's also the type of person that I am too. And, you know, I could do a little bit more. And I am inspired to do that, especially because when you just mentioned yoga, I did just sign up for a yoga class like yesterday. It's my first time.
Don't do it.
And so like, I just see y'all bending y'all bodies and stretching, but now you got me thinking like, now I need to look into the practices and like the origin and like the history and all that. So just a little tidbit for my viewers and listeners. Always do your research.
Always do your research, and don't, like you said, people blindly follow trends on social media. Like, and I think the biggest one was like smudging with, not the Palo Santo, but the other one. Sage.
Yeah.
smudging and things like that. It's like you're performing acts of witchcraft. And you don't even know.
Don't even know.
So it's like always, like you say, do your research.
Ain't doing nothing.
We're bringing them in. Like,
right.
Inviting them.
Like, man, this sage is not working.
It ain't working. It's like, no,
you
it's
need to sage your soul, okay?
Throw out all that out.
I'm bringing another girl on to talk about stuff like that because that's a whole nother episode. But you're so right. Yeah. We need to realize like why we doing these things. Yeah. It's because you seen your favorite YouTuber do it.
Yeah.
That's not good enough.
It's not.
You could be sitting on accident.
You could.
That's crazy.
Or just bringing things, other entities and spirits into your life, into your space. I've seen so many suicides associated with yoga. I've seen at least 5 this year.
No way.
Yeah.
What?
5 this year.
That is wild.
And all of them were Black.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
One was here. Yep.
All right. Well,
so that's why I'm like, don't do it.
I'm going to do my research for sure. But yeah, just to wrap, I guess, this conversation up, because we've talked about a lot. We talked about your church origin story. We talked about love and faith. Where are you at now with your walk in Christ?
I'm in a place where I'm not compromising things and people, opportunities. I was engaged, almost engaged last year again, but he wasn't saved. And so, you know,
you're not compromising.
I'm not compromising.
And that sucks sometimes because it would be like a really great person sometimes. Yeah. And then like my religious views don't add up.
That and things start to unfold and you start to see more. And so it's like, okay, well, the whole point, and just, I don't know, how much time we got left?
Not that much.
Okay.
Not that much, but what's up?
I was about to say, the whole point of having a relationship with God and making sure your partner has a relationship with God is because y'all are on the same page and you can create unity and agree within the relationship. Y'all handle equally yoked. Y'all handle things with the same foundation of doctrine. And it's not just about him going to church.
Yes.
Or him or her. So it's bigger than that.
Because it might not be an issue right now, but you 5 years in, you really love this man, and then you realize, oh, you think like that?
Yeah.
And you're like, wait a minute, how did I miss this?
Yeah.
And it's so heartbreaking because now you have to heal.
Tear yourself apart.
You got to tear that self apart. You got to, like, dang, you really aren't meant for me, but I could have prevented all of this.
If I would have checked and evaluated instead of just, because some people get caught up in, you know, the whole, it's easy. The thought of marriage, the rings,
he's a good person. He's a good man, Savannah. But he's not for me. He's not for you. God didn't put that man here for me.
He didn't send you. Yeah, he didn't send me.
I want the man that is sent for me, you know?
Right.
And so do you feel like this walk that you're in, you said you're not compromising. Is that a lonely one?
Very. It can be sometimes. I have friends that I spend time with, and me and him are still cool, but it's still not a relationship. But how I kind of reconcile that is I still have hope because I'm still, you know, in covenant, still follow the word. And eventually it's going to work out for my good. Yeah. There's people who are out here not living according to God's will and purpose, but don't have no hope. You're just going to end up at an unfacilitated end, unsatisfying end with no hope. And so it's like, I would rather be lonely over here than be lonely without God, because it's like, I'm not saying that you can't be lonely. I'm saying that I'm lonely with hope.
You're lonely, but you're not alone.
I'm not alone. And I'm purposefully single. And so it's a difference in not being able to get somebody.
Okay. That's not hard.
And choosing to not be with a person because you don't meet the standard. Yeah. So it's not the same thing.
Do you think that people can change and...
Absolutely. That's why I say I have friends.
And be that one?
I don't hold on to that. But me and my ex, we do Bible study together. I'm that spiritual influence in his life. And he let me be that. You know, he continues to let me be that. And I'm like, if your soul gets saved eventually, that's all I want. But I'm not hoping that we get back together.
You're not sitting around waiting.
No.
Yeah.
No. If he moved on today, I'll be like, okay, well, as long as you're happy, you know, I'll be fine with it.
Yeah. Well, I'm here to stand with you, friend. You know, I feel like we can help each other in this stage of life, you know, that we're going through. It sounds like you've already been where I'm at, and you could probably teach me some things. Oh yeah. And I can just, you know, be that accountability partner for you.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that at all.
And you too, guys. Go ahead and tell the people how to find you and all that.
Okay, so you can go to Instagram. It's INNER_peace_podcast. Same thing on YouTube as well. And that's where I'll be.
Y'all need to go check it out for your advice.
Yeah. I'm here.
For the life experiences.
All of it.
All right, we're going to take a break and then we're going to get into the Bop of the Week.
Okay.
Okay, so for my Bop of the Week, it's For Your Glory by Tasha Cobbs. This was just a song that came up in my like music. I do love Tasha Cobbs' voice, and I recently just seen her on a podcast. I really love that song. I wish I could sing, you know. I sing in my car, and I know it's giving glory to God, but I don't know about anybody else. What are you listening to, Devyn?
I was on Sade this week.
Okay.
For whatever reason, when I was on Sade at the gym, like I just been noticing like how deeply
I love her music. Oh my God.
How deeply women love. Like we can love when we want to love.
Man, do we.
She said what she said, I'll wash the sand off the shore. And it just caught me. I was like, you know how much sand?
I don't know if I love nobody that. No,
you know how much sand was on the shore, Sade?
Yes.
You said you washed off?
She's a poet.
Right.
Yeah.
But she
meant that.
She meant that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just kind of sent me into, you know, deep thinking as usual, you know, about, you know, these things and how she was living that.
Yeah.
Like if you look at Sade's life and her past partners and things like that, she was writing her life and her experience. So yeah, that's where I was at.
I'm that type of lover. I'm a lover girl. I don't know about you, but it's like I can't love nobody half-heartedly. Like I'm gonna give you all. See, that's why I gotta guard myself.
I'm one of them people that gotta put you in jail first and then see how you act. And then I'm gonna love you. When I see
probation. She said you got
on probation for it.
5 to 10 week trial.
I need to see you for about 6 months.
I need to see all the emotions. Okay?
I need to see what you look like in all the seasons.
I know that's right.
But no, me even being open to a relationship with you is me knowing that I feel something about you. But I just don't tell the people that. So yeah.
You want to know. Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Last segment, Hell is Hot. Now, this is a segment. We're just having fun, guys. We know we don't have a heaven or hell to put anyone in. We're not God. But if we did, this is hypothetical, where do you think Steve Jobs is?
Steve Jobs? I don't think he in hell. Because he wasn't no bad dude.
He wasn't, right? I don't think so either. I feel like the people that work for him now maybe going...
Now, you asked me about Bill Gates, he's still here. He probably got an RSVP down there.
Okay.
Like, no lie.
But Steve Jobs, he seemed like a innovator, his talent was God-given and he did what he could for the world. He left his mark on the world.
Yeah, he was authentic. He got fired from his own organization. Like, yeah, he was all right.
Oh, nigga. Anyway, Whitney Houston. This is a hard one. I love me some Whitney.
I feel like she's in heaven because she wasn't no bad person. She just was dating the wrong man. That's proof of how dating the wrong man could really significantly change her life.
It can.
Because if it wasn't for Bobby, she'd still be here.
And she just couldn't let him go. If anybody thinks about it, that was her biggest addiction.
That was her. Bobby was on drugs, so she got on drugs. She got on drugs with that man. She wasn't on drugs before Bobby.
Man, that's a whole sermon in there, I'm sure. Yeah. Okay, my heart. Love you some Whitney. Love you, Whitney. All right, Elvis Presley. This is the last one.
You know, I don't really know too much about him. I'm going to be 1,000% honest. I don't know enough about him to be like, he in heaven or hell.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
I don't know where he at either, but he was, never mind. We'll leave that one alone. Because people love them some Elvis. I don't want them in my comments coming for me, okay? First of all, I'm a Nashvilleian, okay? We love Elvis. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Sure.
In another episode of JOMILLA DENAE. I don't know who needs to hear this, but do not live this life without God. And in the end, the only thing will matter is what you did for him. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time, I'm JOMILLA DENAE.